Now is the time for us to listen to the lovely message that we have come to hear. Today is Sunday morning. We have got in our midst a young man who has a very profound message, and I'm sure you'll rise to the occasion and stun your conscience. Will you please help me welcome my dear friend, Richard.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Garcia, and I am an alcoholic. By the grace of God, the fellowship of the program, my sobriety date is February the 12th, 1999. And for those who need to take off their shoes like me, approximately 8 years, 11 months, and some change. And I don't know how it happened. All I do know is that it happened. Because the funny thing happened to me on the way to Alcoholics Anonymous, doing something that I didn't want to do. Somehow or another I did some things whether I believed it or not, and I got sober. It's not something that I'm doing and continue to do. It just happened. If I continue to do this thing. I'd like to thank all of you for supporting me, putting up with me. I'd like to thank my wife who's here with me this morning for also supporting me, putting up with me, going through these changes, continue to go through these changes. No power to do for myself. And it is in these changes that one struggles for a topic or what we're going to talk about and things like that. So a lot of prayer and a lot of meditation has been happening for me since Roger asked me to actually put my name on the board. Here. And so we go through things in our mind, and bottom line, there's a book that we have, and I suggested with the people that I work with, it's called The Language of the Heart. And my sponsor suggested that I get that, and he said, you don't start at the beginning of that book, you start at the middle. And you start at the place where it says The Language of the Heart. So I hope that I will be able to somehow listen to it. My current service to the group and also to Alcoholics Anonymous is this. I'm the current chairperson of the group. I have been so for approximately 10 months, and I didn't want to, but someone needed to step up. At a point in time, I was also the GSR. I had to wear 2 hats. And it was baffling to me that I survived it. And the group has survived it. That's even more important, huh? And some changes have happened, both for me and for the group. And in these changes, they're not something that I try to set forth. It's just we mutate. We're supposed to. I came in here like a caterpillar, more like not in a butterfly caterpillar, but it was more like a moth caterpillar, because when I came out, I was still ugly. I was just checking to see if this thing was on. Not really. But it was time for me to change. So in these changes, I hope that I can stay with it. I have struggled with this one sentence continuously in the experience of it. Is he not the victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness if he only manages well? And Vernon, I want to manage. I want to control. I want to manipulate. I want to find ways of how to do things and get you to do things that would be beneficial for me. Wait a minute. I want to be able to control and manipulate and change things to be in benefit to all of us. And that's where the change happened. All of a sudden it wasn't about me. All of a sudden it was about us. And all of a sudden my motives and reasons for doing things somehow or another changed. And I don't know how it happened. It just happened. But I do know that when I try to wrest happiness and satisfaction by managing well for me, it doesn't go too well. It just doesn't go too well. service work besides to the group is I try to carry the message in two big studies in the Hispanic side of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is a really, truly growing experience for me because the book in Spanish is not quite the same. Just not quite the same. And in reading it in English, to know what I'm going to be talking about that evening, and then having to read it in Spanish and read it in Spanish and become familiar with the words because my Spanish is not that great. So I have to learn how to enunciate or pronounce the words. Something happens more. And I go to two different groups. And the Hispanic Alcoholics Anonymous is a lot of it. And so in trying to control and manipulate that thing, finally I get to a point too where I have to let go of God. Because ultimately it's all about letting go of God. I truly believe in the experience of this, that the hardest thing that I have learned to do and try to do is let go. Because somehow or another I get back to that sense. I want to rest. I want to wrestle with. I want to fight. I want to. But I can't. I know that I can't. And so in the moment that I'm getting ready to control and manipulate, I can just stop, pause, they say somewhere in the black part of the book. Breathe, for me, it's in my book, I don't know about yours. And I can ask the thing that we call God, our power of my understanding, to help me, at the very least, to get through this thing. Not to get angry, not to get upset, to give them the message of hope, and in the hope that they come to their understanding. Because it doesn't matter what I know. My job or my responsibility is to help them go through their experience of what their victims tell them. And yes, it's the same. However, it is a little bit different. In trying to change, we go through this process of the steps, right? When we make this decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of this God that I have absolutely no idea what it is. None. Even after 13 and a half years of Catholic school education, I still really shouldn't have done it. Because somehow or another in my drinking career, I had neatly evaded and entirely ignored it and said that all was someone to do. And I can tell you where, but it's only self-knowledge. I can tell you these things because I work with a few people. And I've been fortunate enough to receive the gift of sponsorship, working with other alcoholics. And I had neatly evaded and entirely ignored this thing that we call God. And the only difference is now, and from then, is that now I must learn to be honest with myself. So the person who received the 6-month chip, the very top, the very, very top in the front, to thy own self be true. So what that means that I can't lie to myself in trying to control and manipulate. I can't buy into my old ways of thinking. And most importantly, I can't buy into my old ways of doing, handling things. Because when the world climbers hit my ass, they hit. And I'm not all that bad, but I'm just as bad as a tornado. And I was. And sometimes I still can. Because I want things done a certain way. Don't you know who I think I am? What? Oh, but I'm not that anymore. It's not who I am. It's not, yes, it was who I was, but I'm not that anymore. I can return to that easily, take my will back, and go back and do things the way I used to do. And what does the book tell us? If my conduct continues to harm people, because I don't give a rat's ass how I affect you. I really won't. So I take my will back and the insanity returns, and the justification of my actions becomes predominant. And instead, we will think again. We will think again. See, because even though with all the promises that it has, if you do this and continue to do this, there are some things that if you don't do and continue to do, you're drunk. What we do. My solution. I get to a point in my life where I used to say, F it, pop a Budweiser, Schaefer Light, or Milwaukee, and all of a sudden I stuck my head in the ground, leaving my ass out for everybody to get. And then when I came out of that situation, what happened? No, it's not sober. And so I placed myself in a position to be hurt by sticking my head and ignoring my problems and my situation. And meanwhile, life was going on. And other people needed to make other decisions as to how. And I didn't know this when I first got here. I just did not understand. I was 52 years old when I came in. 30-something years of drinking because I wasn't like you. See, I wasn't an alcoholic like some of you guys that started drinking in the morning. Not me. I'm not an alcoholic. But at 2:30, 3:30, beer 30, right after work, I had 2 beers in my hand and driving home. Because it was always a 2-beer drive home for the longest time. And somehow in that experience, those 2 beers became 2 beers more when I got in the house. And then after my wife went to bed, it was run to the ice house real quick to get a 6-pack or 12-pack, drink myself into oblivion. And I did that for well over 7 years. And I did not. I just did not care. But because I was an alcoholic and I did wind up here, something has happened. Is it a miracle that I'm here? Well, maybe. I don't know. But I will say this, that somehow or another something happened for me. See, I got drunk one night with some friends, some buddies, and they're still friends, and they're still buddies, and they still drink, and I still hang out with them. They drink beer, they want to drink water or soda, whatever. And it's okay. They're not alcoholics. They haven't done the things that I've done. They haven't lost the things that I've lost. I caused an accident in one of those blackouts. I tried to get home at 3 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, and I still can't remember this situation, and I blacked out. I woke up from this blackout, slammed on the brakes because I saw two little red things that looked like aliens. And I slammed on the brakes and still hit the vehicle in front of me. Because of that, I wound up in court. And because of that, I wound up in an outpatient treatment. And it was a 2-beer drive to the treatment center, or a 2-beer drive after the treatment center, either way. And so the counselor there finally said, you know what, man, we're just going to have to take you to detox. I didn't want to go to detox. I had a deadly fear of hospitals. Just until recently, I started having kind of good experiences at the hospitals that I still don't trust. Because they want to control and manipulate me, and I don't like that. And so in that experience of getting to this point, it's called deflation and death. The counselor was ready to report me to my probation officer, who was going to report me to the judge, and I was going to get MTR, and yada, yada, yada. And I became willing to go to wherever they were going to send me, to an independent entry or another 6 months or something, whatever. And I started preparing my family for this. And I talked with my wife, and being the alcoholic that I am, and she said, okay, honey, if that's what you think you have to do, okay. And I talked to some other people, and they said, well, okay, if that's what you see, but I didn't want to give up my right of drinking. I didn't want to give up drinking. Keep that in mind. I did not want to give up drinking. It is my right. I'm an American. I'm a Texan. And sorry, Bubba. He's way in the back. I'm a Bubba. I just don't have a truck. Not because I smashed it, I just don't have a truck. It was my God-given right to drink. You know, who the heck is the state of Texas to tell me I can't drink? And so they took away my license. I smashed my car. I still had to go out of town to go work, and it was still a 2-beer drive home, and I couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't deal with it. And so finally the counselor said, you know, you're you're still having some problems with the stopping drinking part, aren't you? Oh, no, I'm not. Y'all are. She couldn't see it that way. She did not think it was funny like you guys. And so she threatened to MTR me. And so then, instead of preparing my family for whatever was going to come because of my decision, I talked with my son. My son at the time was 12 years old. And I was preparing him that I might be sent to a treatment center and this and that. It was about a 10, 15-minute conversation. And finally he said, Dad, what have you got to lose? And in that statement, I don't know where he got this little wisdom. Surely it wasn't from me. Might have been his mom. Well, maybe. Anyway, what did I have to lose? Well, I had to lose my way of living. I had to lose my way of thinking. And I had to lose my way of doing things that I didn't know that. I didn't know that at the time. So I went to work the next day. And in one of my many cigarette breaks, I asked this God of my understanding, and I became willing to do whatever that stupid counselor said. And she had already sent me here. And I had a book, and I had a newcomer's packet, and I had all this other stuff. And when I read the book, I used a couple of beers to sound better, you know how that is. And I became willing to do whatever the guys, the people in the meeting. And I became willing, a little bit open-minded, just a little bit, just enough. And so the threat of being sent to detox was still real. She sent me to a hospital to get my blood tested, and I had already I made this deal with this God thing, and that night, I took a beer drive home, took the family to dinner, had another beer, got home, finished the 2 beers that I had in the refrigerator, and didn't drink again. However, the process of detoxing started. For me, I detoxed the 10 o'clock meeting. Detox. Physically, mentally, spiritually. And that's why the 10 o'clock meeting means so much to me. That's why I owe it so much, because the people that were there in that room at that time helped me to go through this experience. And in going through this experience of detoxing and going to meetings and going to the treatment thing and going batshit crazy because all I wanted to do, my whole being said a drink will help, and I knew I didn't want to do it. And one day I returned to that cigarette break place, and I was leaning on the wall, contemplating the bust of Aristotle, looking at a liquor store, which was kind of like from here to the telephone company building. And I knew that a little bottle of a half pint would get me through and help me get rid of the shakes. I knew it. I intuitively knew that a drink would help. And I asked again to this higher power of my misunderstanding to help me. And as I was thinking about these things, I was on kind of like my last puff, and it was time to get back and try to do something because I was still shaking and I was still just, the mind wouldn't shut down in my hands, and I just couldn't sit still. The realization of that restless, irritable, and discontentedness was real in me at that moment of time, and I asked again. And as I threw away my cigarette and turned back to the door to go back inside, something flew by me. And I kind of caught that it was yellow. And I kind of caught just in the, I can see this way real good because of the glasses, but I can't see too clearly over here because there is no glasses. And so I say this because it might have been real and it might have not been real, but I saw it. And at the time we had this little poodle dog at the house who's since gone to the dog playpen in the sky. That's another story. And I saw this yellow thing and I knew that it was a ball, and so I turned around and started looking for it because that little bent over, picked it up, and it was one of those smiley faces, you know, like the kind Walmart uses for their advertising, dropping prices, right? Have a nice day. I hate that. You have a nice day. Can't you see I want to get drunk here? And I bent over, picked it up, saw the smiling face, and as I turned around and again go back into the store, I twirled the ball over and it said simply, Jesus loves you. Nah, shit. I knew it was true. Jesus does love me. I walked into the store and I showed it to my co-workers. From that moment, the obsession, not the shake, just the obsession was removed for me. Is it a burning bush experience? I have no idea. All I know is that's what happened to me, and that's my story. I'm out here and you're not. So I guess I better stick to it, huh? But I was still detoxing. I was still shaking. And one night I came to that infamous meeting. They call it the circus, they call it the zoo, they call it the this. And the topic was, there is a solution. And I said to myself, I don't care what your solution is. I want to know how you just don't drink. That's what I want to know. How do you just don't drink right now? Because if I could do that, I wouldn't be here, would I? But if you could do that, you wouldn't be here either. Duh. And they said simply, almost profoundly, Richard, if you had gone to the detox like they wanted you to, you would have found out that a little bit of sugar helped. You would have found out that a little bit of orange juice helped. You would have found out that a little bit of chocolate helps. Man, why didn't you just tell me that to begin with? Because it doesn't work that way. Because even though it does help, it doesn't permanently help. It just helps for this moment in time. And even today, when I get restless, irritable, and discontent, I start looking for a Spkr bar. Because on the way home, I stopped at this Walgreens and I bought a bag of bite-sized Spkr bars, one for my car, one for my house, and one for work. Because I get real restless and irritable at work. And so I started eating these stupid things, and they started helping the shakes. And they started helping me with my concentration. But I also continued to come. Because that was the other thing. They told me, keep coming back. Keep coming back. And to our friend who celebrates 6 months today, if you hear anything, or if you don't hear anything, just try to remember this. Keep coming back. Just keep coming back. Something will happen for you. Don't leave. Don't leave. Because even today, when I try to rest happiness and satisfaction, I get restless, irritable, and discontent, boom, in a New York second. And I'm a whole different person. Become the Richard that I used to be. Because see, for me, in my experience, persistence and perseverance are not character pluses. They are character defects for me. They are the reasons, the justifications of my acting the way I did, because I can do this. Please get out of my way. These are character defects. In the process of going through this thing and reading the book and working with others, my new word is resolutely. And it means simply that I have to try to do things, and they should be marked with firm determination. And the difference is that this time I ask this thing that I call God to help me. And that's my decision, see, because I don't have choices for me. I don't have choices. I can look at them. I can look at the options. for me, there's still only two alternatives. To keep living the way I was, or to try and find the higher power and make a connection. I take a shortcut, if you will. As I'm getting ready to do something that I intuitively know that's going to piss me off, I ask God to help me. And somehow or another, I don't get as upset. Somehow. Doesn't mean that I don't get upset. Doesn't mean that I don't get angry, because it didn't go my way. But I don't get as upset and as angry as I used to. And that's the change for me. For me. And so I walked back into that store of mine that I worked at, and I told these people, and I showed them this little stupid ball. And they said, wow, that's nice. You know what? There's a little pencil here with a smiley face. Cool. Smile. Old behavior. See, and so we change, or I've changed, if you will. And I don't know how I've changed. All I know is that I try my best not to do things the old way. And as I'm going through them, I'm asking this thing called God, a creative intelligence, the spirit of the universe, a great reality, whatever it is of your understanding, and ask it to help. But that's what I have to do. Yes, and I've done a bunch of other things because it was suggested, and these things are not suggestions. Because somehow or another, I reached the point that alcohol had kicked my ass enough to become willing to do what they did. These two guys. And they set something in motion that's in place for me and for you. And all I have to do is just continue to do it. The best that I can. Today, right now. And I have a lot of these right now moments. Sometimes. Someday. Because I still get upset. I still have to deal. I don't work here. And I don't live here. So I still have to deal with people who drive like me on 410. I still have to deal with people at the store that act like me in my own store. Still. I still have to deal with people that are unreasonable. Normie. Average people. People that haven't lost their will. Man, can you imagine? There's actually some out there. And I have to deal with them. And it's unfair. In this sense. Because when I get upset with them, I simply have to ask this God to give me, show me the tolerance, to show them the love, to help me to help them. Because something happened for me. When I was shown, when it was demonstrated that when I reach out to help another alcoholic, something happens to me. And I have no idea what it is. Yeah, dude. But you're going to have to find it out for yourself. Why? Because that's the miracle for me. When this guy went and talked with this guy, because this guy was drunk and this guy was sober, he knew he had to talk with this guy. Because that was going to keep him sober. And he talked, and he talked, and he talked, and he talked. And he gave him his experience, strength, and hope. And he told him what it was like, and 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 what happened, and what it's like now, and what it's like now, and what it's like now. And that's what we did. That's what I was shown. I was taught. Two of my sponsors, and I've had four. The first one and the present one showed me how to work with others, out of the book. So I keep my bullshit to myself. The answer is in there. We hear the meaning. It is. The unfortunate thing is it's written in drunk. And you need a translator. In English, for me, first, so that you can find it. Because it usually is different. It usually is. And somehow or another, as I started to do those things and continue to do those things, I'm changing. am not the direct cause of these changes. These changes are the direct cause of things that I have done indirectly. Because I can no longer do the things that I used to do. And the moment that I think that I want to do them, I have to ask this God to help me. The other night, I had an experience. The very head person of that outpatient treatment center came to a meeting. He had 15, 12, some odd years. And somehow or another he went out. That happens to us. That could happen to me. Okay, so I know where shit is in the book. So what? It's only knowledge. It's only self-knowledge. Yeah, and I know how to behave. So what? It's only self-knowledge. Yes, and I am capable of doing things on my own without asking God to help me. And it's only self-reliance. And yes, I am confident enough that I can do these things and get away with them, but isn't it only self-confidence? And so in the insanity of this disease or illness or malady or whatever you want to call it, for me, the moment that I begin to take my will back, the danger of that first drink presents itself. The madness, the insanity of it. I'll share another experience with you. And don't get mad. It's only my experience, not yours. My wife and I were discussing something heatedly. We were having an argument, all right? That's heatedly. That's a new word for being pissed. And so she opens up a bottle of Merlot that my boss gave me for Christmas because he just gave it to me and he don't drink either. And so I took it home and she decided that she wanted to open it and have a drink. And so she was having a nice cool drink and I was going to go refill my water and I looked at the bottle. I looked at the bottle and thought to myself, I think will help. And yeah, it would. It would help. Instead of getting the water, pouring on the fire of this argument, of this heated discussion, I would gingerly grab the can of gasoline and I'll show you. In that moment in time, I paused and said, okay, God, it ain't enough, is it? And I went for my water. Because I knew that it wasn't going to be enough. Because that drink would have taken me back to the island. Because it's always too good driving. Always. So not even 2 weeks ago, the insanity gone. That God would restore me to sanity. Yeah, right. In a New York second, I take my will back and I want to control and manage and rest, happiness, and satisfaction by managing me, you, my wife, my job, business, life. In a New York second. I'm not from Mexico, but over there they use a Monterey minute. It's a little longer. Okay, y'all got it. And that's what this experience of change is about. For our new friends. Don't be afraid. Welcome it. This is not a learning experience for me. Rather, it's an unlearning experience for me. Because for me, in order to learn, I have to become willing to unlearn. For me. I had to become willing not to do things the old way. I had to learn not to think the old way. And damn, that's hard. That's difficult. But that's ingrained in me. Just last year, I had two really super experiences. I had to go back to my hometown near Corpus. It's called Robstown. Earlier in the year, January, one of my aunts passed away. surviving part of the family also passed away. And I had to go back. One of those command performances things that you cannot immediately evade or entirely ignore. You've got to be there. And as I was driving around the town of my childhood, I realized that even in the very church where the ceremony was being held, across the street, I started in a little mission room in kindergarten, being taught by a monk about what it is to be a Christian. And I went back. I went back to my roots. The realization of going back to the very thing, the very beginning of things that I could remember. Across the street was the school where I broke my heel the first time. I went looking for the house that I grew up, and I have kind of semi-fond memories of. That's the place I broke my other leg. Go figure. And so we go back to our roots in this experience called sobriety, or I have. And in this, I begin to take a look at the things that I had learned, and I begin to set them down. And I begin to ask this higher power to take me to a new place, or a new experience, if you will. If really, truly, that little yellow stupid ball with a smiley face was a spiritual experience, then what am I doing? Am I still trying to hold on to old ideas? Am I still trying to hold on to old emotions? Yeah. And more importantly, am I still trying to hold on to my old attitude? Because it's explained so wonderfully. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men are set down. And suddenly, a new set of conceptions and motives begin to come. But what does that mean for me? The way I think, the way I feel, and the way I carry myself. And there ain't nothing I can do to change those things. But as I am going through these experiences of life, and as I'm going through these experiences of whatever these experiences are, I can simply just say, okay, God, whatever the truth, help me out here. Help me out, because I'm about to do something real stupid. I'm about to go back to the old beginning. I'm about to rest satisfaction and happiness. I'm full of it. And I can't. And something within me stops me. And again, nothing that I have done. The consciousness of the presence of God is probably one of the most greatest experiences any of us. Unfortunately, trying to keep it is the hard part. And it also says in there somewhere that it would be great to have our heads in the clouds with Him. But we have to have our feet on this ground. And if I am truly an alcoholic, then maybe I should do what they did. Just maybe. And just maybe, by the grace of God, I can have the faith. Thank you very much.
So you shall be given a round of applause, please. I would also like to make the announcement that you are stuck with me. The next 3 months, I'm going to be the chairperson for the Sunday morning meeting. And I've already chosen two speakers right sitting there on the chair. And these are speakers who will never say no. That is what I think the AA program taught me. and some member of the AA program asks you to do something, you jolly well do it. You know what I mean? Okay. I didn't ask my friends, but they will get a little shocked. Next week, the 3rd of February, my friend Larry will do us the honor of speaking on Sunday morning. He has got 29 years of sobriety, as you heard last week. And also, the coming month, there's another wonderful man who's going to celebrate 51 years of sobriety. Can you beat that? Some of you kids were not even born. And that is my great stalwart friend, Jim Bill. Will do us the honor of speaking on the 10th, sir. There we go. See that? They just nodded. So these are the people I learned from. Never say no to a beautiful offer. They don't know. I never ask them. So I'm asking them from the pulpit here. And guess what happens? So these are the two stalwarts who are going to present us their journey of consciousness, their journey of recovery, their journey of what on earth they did in order to stay sober for so long. And I think they set for us a tone and example that when they can do it, you and I also can do it. Okay, as is customary, I'll close up with that lovely passage called The Man in the Glass, and we'll wind up the meeting thereafter with the Lord's Prayer. The Man in the Glass. When you get what you want and you struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to a mirror and look at yourself and see what that fool has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass, the fellow whose verdict counts most in your life was the man staring back from the glass. Some people may think you are a great shooting star and call you a wonderful guy. But the man in the glass says, you're really a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. These fellows never mind all the rest.